The importance of establishing a clear sense of purpose and vision for success. Today, we delve into easy and effective ways to motivate yourself in our Spotlight on Now.
As we get into your spotlight this morning, Monica Rogers-Fletcher, life and business coach, joins us on set again to go through some highly effective ways to motivate yourself. Hopefully they'll be a little bit easy as well. Good morning, Monica. Welcome back.
Good morning, Rokas. It's great to be here. Thank you all for having me.
No problem. So we're talking motivation this morning, right? Now, one of the things that's always interesting to me about motivation is that sometimes it feels as though it must come from within. It has to start from within. Why can't I get external motivation and just let that be enough?
That would be easy, wouldn't it?
Make life a lot easier.
If you can get someone else to tell us what to do and when to do it and how to do it.
That's not life coaching. That's not what people is doing in life coach.
Well, not real coaches. Real coaches don't just tell people what to do or give them instructions.
Okay.
They basically get the person to give
to that place.
To give their own self a command and obey it.
And why is it important for that to happen? Why is it important for it to come from within you?
Because that's a good question, but I was going to rush into an answer, but I'll slow it down. I'll slow it down a little bit and say, our voice, my voice, is really the only voice, the most powerful voice that I listen to. If you, as a coach, I remember once coaching this person, and she was not in a good place, and said, "Oh, please, Monica, please, just help me, tell me what to do," and broke the rule of all coaches and told her what to do. Months later, she didn't do anything I said, right? Months later, she came through the same things that I told her and said, "This is what I came up with." And then she did it.
And it's the same things that you told her anyway.
It's the same things,
right.
But she wasn't ready to receive it at that point in time. And when she was ready, she came up with the ideas, and we execute the ideas that we come up with.
Okay.
So what a coach actually does is it helps a person to find solutions to the challenges that they're facing. And when they find their own solution, supported by, of course, the ability of the coach, then and asking the right questions, then they would go ahead and execute because they said that they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And this is why it's important to have that vision and to establish your purpose.
Right.
Because if this is what I want, this is how I see myself being successful, and I'm going towards that, then essentially very little could stop you, especially when the going gets hard,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the key elements to motivation.
The key elements, Rokas, in my coaching studies and experience, I've come up with this formula regarding motivation. Motivation is one of the elements of it.
Okay.
The bottom line is really performance. Right? Because, motivation is a key factor in performance.
Definitely.
And performance is a key factor in everything else, in success in your life, in your business, in your career. Lack of performance is a problem.
Yeah.
So the formula. So performance is the bottom line, and there are three elements. The first element is, what is it that you're really supposed to do? What is the contract? What are the metrics? How do you know that you have performed?
Okay.
So that must be established.
Okay.
So if you're not clear on what's
KPIs.
That's right.
All right. Key
Right.
performance indicators. We need to
Right.
know what it is we're measuring.
Right.
Right.
And so you'll know that if you achieve this, you have performed.
Right.
That must be established, whether for yourself, in your own vision, your own purpose, your own goals and objective, or in an organization. That must be. If that's not clear, well, what are we working towards? Right.
Fair.
Just yesterday, we were having a conversation, my team and I, and we were talking about without a vision. Some people have no vision, and without that vision, what are they working towards?
Yeah, you can't see where you're going.
That's one of the elements. The second one is, do you have the skills, the capabilities, the qualifications to do the thing?
To achieve those KPIs.
That is correct. Do you have them? Because, that's fundamental.
Right.
That's where the academic side of us comes in, the intellectual side of us. Do we know? So the first thing is, what is it that we need to do? And do we know how to do it, and to do it effectively, to do it well?
Right.
That's the second factor. The third factor is motivation, the energy, the drive, the desire to do what needs to be done, especially when the external conditions and circumstances are not in your favor. That's when it gets difficult.
All right. So, I mean, for me, the motivation part is the interesting part. And I really want us to focus on that part today because people get motivation in a variety of ways, right? So, I mean, we might have these goals that we want to achieve, and you might have the skill set to be able to achieve it, right?
Yes.
And then you say to yourself, the only reason that I'm willing to go through this process to get to these goals is simply because I want the salary that comes with it. Is that enough motivation to be able to get yourself through things?
Well, if you have no money, it's a good starting point.
Right.
It's a good start if you have no money. But when you have sufficient money,
what is sufficient money? What does that look
well,
like?
you're comfortable, you know. I guess sufficient is
relative?
Is relative to each person, yeah. Because what might be sufficient for you, I might be able to settle for a little less.
I'm yet to find sufficient. I'm still searching for sufficient.
Yeah. But people choose what they're motivated by. And sometimes what you initially start off being motivated by, it gets you started.
Right.
But it's not enough for when difficulties arise.
So what do you need to be motivated by to be able to stand up through the storms?
Let's think about that a little bit. I remember, as you mentioned the word storm, there's a narrative, a little story about this
I love these stories. Come on, bring them.
There's a story about this guy in a hotel in somewhere up in Canada, and there was a snowstorm.
Right.
So he's asking the concierge, do you think I'll be able to go out and get back out on the road tomorrow? And the concierge said to him, it depends. It depends on what? On whether you're working on a salary or commission.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So it depends on what you want, what you are driven by. So let's just look at another example. If I took a plank, fairly...
a piece of wood, a 2x4.
And about 10 feet long. And I put it on two bricks or something. And it's about a foot off the ground. And I said, would you walk across that plank? 10 feet across, would you?
Chances are not, because it might break in the middle. Depends on how thick it is.
But what if I gave you $500?
No.
1,000?
I mean, you could go higher. It have a number, but I mean, it wouldn't be so low.
Right, but something.
Yeah.
You'd be motivated.
There's a figure.
There's a figure.
Yeah.
Right. If you put that 10 feet up in the air.
There's still a figure.
But it's going to get higher.
Of course.
Right. If I put it between two buildings that are 10 stories high.
Well, no, you take me out of the equation.
But what if you had a child, and the child was on the roof of the other building that you have to cross, and that child was in danger, and you were the only person who could save them?
But chances are not going to make it all the way across.
But would you try?
I would try to find another way.
But if that was the only way?
Well, you see, now you're getting into real specifics.
But now we're talking about motivation.
Exactly. Okay.
We are talking about... No, that's an extreme. That's an extreme example. But at 10 stories high, without the child, you weren't even willing to consider that.
No.
With the child, now you're looking for possibilities.
Yeah.
And there always are possibilities, and there always are answers. And I think the key with regard to motivation is that you hold the key. You are the one that's making the choice. That's what, and I think a lot of people don't realize the choice has to be made by me. I am the one who wants to achieve. I am the one that's making the choices. Viktor Frankl talked about that last thing that human beings have is the right to choose their attitude, right? And attitude is pretty simple. Attitude is how you think, which makes you feel. How you think, and how that makes you feel, and then what do you do as a result? So
think, feel, and do.
Think, feel, and do, and that is your attitude. And essentially, motivation comes from attitude. Do you really? How does this make you feel doing this? How would it make you feel not doing it? If you don't walk across the plank and the child, and something happens to the child, how would you feel?
Yeah.
How would you feel knowing that you didn't try? That's the sort of thing. So,
but there's always sometimes the fear of failure. So you might be motivated to do something. You might say to yourself, I'm going to start this business this year, 2024. I've been making candles in my bedroom for the last however long, but this year, nah, I'm jumping out, I'm going to set up my business properly, and I'm going to sell to people, right?
Yes.
And let's say, all right, January 2nd, you say you're coming out, and you went and you register your business, and then you start to see the cost of buying in bulk, you start to see, and you say, but wait, hold on. What is all this? I wasn't prepared for all this. And then you go ahead and you make all your candles after, all right, I spend the money, I'm going in because I'm motivated. And then on day one, nobody buys a candle.
Yeah, that happens. And a lot of people
How do you get through that part of it? What is the motivation that you need to be able to get through that part of it, of the first thing that seems like failure?
Yeah. The failure doesn't, the failure reveals to you whether you're how motivated you really are. The failure reveals to you how motivated you really are.
So as a life coach, would you say that you would encourage reminding somebody about their motivation at that point?
Well, if I were coaching someone in a situation like that, I would ask them, well, why did you want to make the candles in the first place? What made you select making candles? And if you had a compelling enough reason for making those candles, difficulties, you would see difficulties as challenges to overcome and opportunities to take advantage of. Because the fact of the matter, everywhere in the world, not everywhere in the world, but in the world at any given point in time, something good is happening somewhere and something bad is happening somewhere else. There's always good and there's always bad. If you look at different times in your life, something terrible happened, but at the same time, something else fantastic happened, and you are in between the celebrating and the crying.
I was born on the same day as my grandfather's funeral.
There you go.
Good and bad. Same exact thing. So I understand. Does this apply to businesses as well? I know we're talking about individuals, we're talking about people's journey, and you talk about extreme situations when it comes to being motivated.
Yes.
In a business, does the same rules apply?
It does apply, and it's especially important in business because performance matters in business. And that formula that I told you about, you start off with the contract and your skills and the qualification and the motivation, it's a multiplication formula. So any factor that is low drops
the entire average,
drops the entire result. And performance is key, and it's in businesses, salary starts I need a job and I'll come and I'll be excellent in the interview and I get the job. Then when, after I get the first salary, the second one and so on, I start to feel comfortable and the salary no longer satisfies me. And if I didn't know upfront why I really wanted this job, what was my vision for success, what was my purpose, I could just get complacent and just do the basics.
But what about also being influenced by the environment that you're in? Because some people go into jobs with the best intentions, the best motivation, and then they reach and they realize, but nobody else here ain't doing no work. Why I must be the only fool doing work?
Well, you have to ask yourself questions like, why would you think that you're a fool for doing the work? What would make you think that if I am being diligent at my job, because I am I want my candles, I'm taking this job so that I can get the capital so I can continue with my candles business.
Right.
Why would I think that I'm a fool because nobody else is working? Nobody else has a candle business.
But they will be all getting paid the same way? They're still getting the same money?
Well, getting the same money, wouldn't you want to get more money so that your candle business would take off a little faster? This is it. So it all depends on what the person's desire is and what would drive them to get to navigate the external circumstances, the external conditions to get to where they want to go to. If they're not going anywhere, well, whatever. Anything can happen. But if you're going somewhere and that place that you're going to, that vision of success that you see for yourself is sufficiently important, then you would meet those difficulties head on.
How often should you reevaluate that position? Should you check in with yourself and see if you're still aligned?
Well, that's a very, very good question. How often would you do it?
I mean, I would say once a quarter.
Once a what?
Once a quarter, just to make sure that, when you look back, because I found that sometimes, like in previous years, I would only look back at the end of the year to see, let's see what happened this year. Let's see how I fared from the beginning of the year. But I now I'm wondering if I need to measure it based on, as we go.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I recommend to people is to keep a journal.
Right.
And a journal allows you to track. No, not a journal to tell you this is what I did yesterday and so on, but a journal that allows you to track how you feel and what you're doing and whether you are on track, right? Coaching is also a process. it's like you stay with the person over a period of time.
Well, you know what, Monica? I feel like at this point, you here to coach us, and you had to make this a process too, because you was here last week, you're here this week. I feel you had to come back and do some more coaching as we continue. We coaching the nation together. How about that?
That sounds like a good plan.
That sounds like a good plan. Well, Monica, let me thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but clearly we're going to run through some coaching sessions here. So I want I want to invite you to come back so we can continue this conversation.
Yes, and just may I say one thing. On Friday, I'm having an event that gives a little bit more description
Where and when?
on this. This is in Costart,
Right.
in Chagonas, at the head office. And guess what it's called? It's called Bridging the Gap to Your Vision of Success. And I had that before we spoke last
Well,
week.
you see, it manifested itself. Thank you so much for joining us again, Monica. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much, Rook. It's a pleasure as always.
Same here. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a quick break and we come back and take your phone calls. So stay tuned. We get to pay tribute to the Honorable Basdio Pandey today. So stay tuned. It's in our morning show.